In this class today, I'm going to talk to you about body language while doing your public speaking. And it very often happens that, there are different situations where we want to use different types of body language, especially, if sometimes we forget something on stage and, then what's happening? Do you like what I'm doing? Is there something wrong? Of course there is. Probably not as much in what I'm saying, but what's really looking odd is how I'm using my hands, how I'm using my body language while talking to you right now. Today, we're going to focus specifically on how to use your hand movements. You may have had a great presentation. You may have done great preparations. But the big question becomes, the moment you're on stage, the moment you're in front of your audience, what do you do with your hands? And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to share with you 5 simple tips and 5 very interesting tips that you can actually use during your public speaking on how to use your hands. So here we go. The 5 tips on how to use your hands. I call it the game of the boxes. Why is that? You'll soon realize. Tip number 1. Imagine you have a box in front of you. Just about there, in front of your chest or belly, and this is a kind of imaginary box that you need to think of. And this is the hand gesture that you often use when you want to communicate trustworthiness and truthfulness. For example, suppose I have stood for the elections to the Students' Council in the hostel. I would say, if you vote for me, I'm going to make sure that the quality of the food in the canteen is going to significantly improve. Watch my hand movements. I'm basically operating in this little box in front of me. If you note carefully, former President of the United States, Bill Clinton, actually used some of these hand movements quite effectively. Let's go to tip number 2. How many of you love football or basketball? Good. The ones that you do, very good. The ones that do not, please start loving football or basketball, because it's going to be very important for what I'm going to share with you right now. You got to imagine you are holding a football or a basketball inside the box that we just described right in front of you. And this is the hand movement that I call moving the ball. Imagine a ball in front of your belly in the box that we just made a little while back. This is a hand movement that conveys a lot of confidence and control, especially over the facts and figures that you share in your presentation or your speech. Steve Jobs used to use this hand movement a lot. Let me give you an example. Do you have any clue about how much happens on the internet every minute? Every minute of the internet sees 1 million Facebook logins, 4 million Google searches, and 40 million WhatsApp messages. Now, as I just said that, I hope you noticed how I was using my hand movements. It was not the box, but it was a ball within the box. This, just to repeat, is a hand movement that you use to convey control and confidence on what you're saying. Tip number 3. You want to join me for a trip to Africa? Come on then, because I'm going to take you to Egypt to see the pyramids of Egypt. Now what's that in hand movements and body language? That is this. This is the hand movement or the hand gesture that we call the pyramid structure. You've created the box, you've put a ball inside the box. Now imagine you're putting down a pyramid made by your hands on top of the box. And so, as we've now reached the pyramids of Egypt, let's talk about where you use it. This hand gesture, the pyramid, is mostly used in interviews or formal discussions. And this is something that conveys that the person speaking is self-assured and relaxed and has confidence in what he or she is saying. For example, I believe that the project is going to go fine because we really understood what the issues are and we figured out the solutions to all the issues. As I said that, I hope you noticed how I was using my hand movements. I basically kept my fingers crossed like this in the form of a pyramid on top of the box that we made and the ball that we put inside the box. And I spoke the sentence that I did. This, to repeat, is something that you use typically in an interview or a formal discussion to convey confidence. However, this hand gesture comes with a risk. If you use it a bit too much, you might come across as arrogant. You don't want to do that. So use it, but use it sparingly. Tip number 4, and that is this. This is a hand movement where you have your palms face upwards, place them slightly above your waistline. This is a hand gesture that communicates that the speaker is open and honest about what he or she is saying at the moment. This is something that Oprah Winfrey has used several times. Let me illustrate this with an example. Look, I know there has been a mistake. I did the calculation wrong and I realized it later, but I assure you that I'm going to take responsibility and fix it. I hope you noticed that when I was admitting something wrong that I had done, I used this hand gesture and not this or this or this. Because this is a hand gesture that communicates that I am being open and truthful about something that may have gone wrong. I am taking responsibility. It is very important to use these hand gestures with the appropriate stuff that you're really saying. Now, the last tip, tip number 5. As we all know, what goes up must come down. And therefore, since we just did a hand gesture with the palms facing upwards, we have to have a hand gesture with the palms facing downwards. So this is your tip number 5. This is a hand movement that you would typically use to show assertiveness and control. This is especially used when you have an audience which is probably going a little bit out of control, sometimes in anger, sometimes in happiness, and you have to control the audience. And guess what? The person who we have seen use this gesture many times over is Barack Obama. Let me illustrate this with an example. Ladies and gentlemen, calm down please. I understand that the announcement that I just made would have caused inconveniences for you, but please understand the reasons behind our decision. I hope you noticed what I was doing. This is about calming down the audience, and I would not have used this hand gesture. You would literally calm somebody down like this, and that was the hand gesture that I used in this particular case. Let's do a quick recap of what we just learned on hand gestures. And it's really going to be simple because I'm going to play the little box game with you. And what is a box game? It has 5 steps. Make a box in front of you. Take a little ball, put it inside. Make a pyramid and fly to the pyramids of Giza. Hold the box up, otherwise it will fall down. And finally, of course, you will have to close the box, otherwise the ball might flow out. That's the little box game. If you remember these 5 things, you have your hand gestures under control. Remember when to use what? The box, when you want to show trustworthiness and truthfulness. The ball, when you want to show confidence and control. The pyramid hands, when you are self-assured and relaxed but don't overdo it. The palms upwards, when you want to show openness and honesty. The palms downwards, when you want to show authority and assertiveness. Good luck with your next presentation. Have a great and fantastic impact, not just with your presentation, but also with your body language. And let your hands weave magic.